I thought I was helping a stranger at the airport. He had lost his passport, his phone was dying, and he looked like he was running from something. So I helped him. For 10 minutes, we talked like we'd never see each other again. Then he looked straight into my eyes and said, "If we meet again, don't trust the first thing you hear about me." I thought it was a strange joke. The next morning, I walked into my new job, and there he was, standing at the front of the room, my new boss. But that wasn't the part that scared me. It was the photograph sitting on his desk. A photograph of me, taken years before we'd ever met. And suddenly, I realized, the man I thought was a stranger had known who I was all along. I thought I was helping a stranger at the airport. He had lost his passport, his phone was dying, and he looked like he was running from something. So I helped him. For 10 minutes, we talked like we'd never see each other again. Then he looked straight into my eyes and said, "If we meet again, don't trust the first thing you hear about me." I thought it was a strange joke. The next morning, I walked into my new job, and there he was, standing at the front of the room, my new boss. But that wasn't the part that scared me. It was the photograph sitting on his desk. A photograph of me, taken years before we'd ever met. My name is Evan, and until that morning, I believed my life was finally heading in a simple direction. I was 24, moving to Chicago for a job I'd spent months trying to get. It wasn't my dream job exactly, but it was a start, a real career, a new apartment, a new city, a chance to leave behind the version of myself who always second-guessed every decision. My flight was scheduled for 8:40 that evening. I was sitting near gate 18 with a paper cup of coffee between my hands when I noticed the man across the terminal. He looked completely out of place. Not because he was dressed strangely. Quite the opposite. Dark navy jacket, white shirt, black trousers, expensive watch. Everything about him looked controlled, except his expression. He kept checking his phone, then the departure board, then the pocket of his jacket. Finally, he stood and walked toward the airline counter. A few minutes later, he came back looking even more frustrated. He stopped near my seat. "Excuse me," he said. I looked up. He was probably in his late 20s. Dark hair, tired blue-gray eyes, and the kind of face that made you look twice before you could stop yourself. "Yeah. Did you happen to see a small black leather pouch around here?" I shook my head. "It has my passport and a few documents inside." "You lost your passport?" His jaw tightened. "I think I left it somewhere between security and this gate." "That sounds serious." "It is." He looked at his phone again. The battery showed 2%. I couldn't help smiling. "That's not exactly helping." He gave me a tired look. "You're right." I stood. "Let's check the seating area." "You don't have to." "I know." Something about the way he said it made me stop. He looked almost surprised that I was helping. "I'm Evan," I said. He hesitated for half a second. "Ryan." We walked toward the security area together. For the next 10 minutes, we searched beneath chairs, checked the charging stations, and asked an airport employee if anything had been turned in. Nothing. Then I noticed a small black pouch wedged beneath a metal bench. "Ryan." He turned. I held it up. His expression changed instantly. He crossed the distance between us and took it from my hand. "That's it." He opened it. Passport. Documents. Everything was there. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for an hour. "Thank you." "No problem." He looked at me for a moment longer than necessary. "You just saved me from a very expensive disaster. I'll accept a coffee as payment." He smiled. It was the first time I'd seen him genuinely relax. "Deal." We went back toward gate 18. For some reason, neither of us hurried. We talked about small things. I told him I was moving to Chicago for work. He said he was going there too. "You're moving there?" I asked. "Something like that." "That sounds suspicious." He laughed quietly. "Maybe it is." "What do you do?" "Business." "That tells me absolutely nothing." "I know." I smiled. "You're terrible at introductions. And you're very curious. Only when people act mysterious." He looked at me. For a second, the joking expression disappeared. There was something almost sad in his eyes. Sometimes mystery is easier than the truth. I didn't know what to say to that. A boarding announcement interrupted us. Ryan checked his phone. 1%. He shook his head. I should probably find a charger. You're going to Chicago too, right? Yes. Maybe I'll see you there. He looked at me strangely, not like a stranger saying goodbye, like someone trying to memorize my face. Then he said something I'll never forget. If we meet again, don't trust the first thing you hear about me. I laughed because I thought he was joking. That's a pretty dramatic warning. I wish I were joking. Before I could ask what he meant, his flight was called. He stood. I watched him walk away. At the security line, he turned around. Our eyes met. Then he disappeared into the crowd. I didn't think about him again. At least I tried not to. My flight landed in Chicago just after midnight. By the time I reached my hotel, I was exhausted. I dropped my suitcase beside the bed and noticed something strange inside my backpack. A small black envelope. I hadn't put it there. I opened it. Inside was a photograph. Old, slightly faded. It showed a crowded community event from years ago. At first, I didn't recognize anyone. Then I looked closer. There was a younger version of me standing near the edge of the picture. I froze. I was probably 17. I hadn't seen that photograph in years. I turned it over. There was handwriting on the back. One sentence. Some people enter your life long before you know their name. I stared at it for several seconds. How did Ryan have this? I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I arrived at my new workplace early. The company occupied several floors of a glass building downtown. I checked in with reception, received my temporary badge, and joined the other new employees in a conference room. Everyone was talking about the company's new executive. Apparently, he had been hired from the East Coast. Young, successful, private, and according to one employee, impossible to impress. I barely listened until the conference room doors opened. The conversation stopped. I looked up, and my heart dropped. Ryan walked in. The same dark hair, the same calm expression, the same eyes that had looked at me at gate 18 the night before. He walked to the front of the room. Everyone stood. Someone whispered, "That's Ryan." My hands went cold. Ryan looked across the room. His eyes found mine immediately. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then he looked away and addressed the room. "Good morning. I'm Ryan Mercer, and starting today, I'll be overseeing this division." My stomach tightened. The stranger from the airport wasn't just my new boss. He had somehow become the most important person in my new workplace overnight. But then I noticed something on the table beside him. A photograph. The exact same photograph I'd found in my backpack. And Ryan knew I'd seen it. Because when our eyes met again, his expression told me one thing. He had been waiting for this moment. For the first few seconds, I couldn't hear anything Ryan was saying. The room had become a blur of voices, chairs, and fluorescent lights. All I could see was that photograph. My photograph, the one I'd found in my backpack that morning. For the first few seconds, I couldn't hear anything Ryan was saying. The room had become a blur of voices, chairs, and fluorescent lights. All I could see was that photograph. My photograph, the one I'd found in my backpack that morning. Ryan placed the photograph back on the desk. "I didn't hire you." That caught me off guard. "What? You applied for the position months before I arrived. So I had nothing to do with your hiring." I didn't know whether that made me feel better or worse. "Then why did you recognize me?" Ryan's silence was answer enough. "You're hiding something." "Yes." At least he admitted it. "Is it dangerous?" "No." "Is it about me?" His eyes met mine. "Yes." Before I could ask anything else, someone knocked on the door. Ryan immediately stepped back. "Come in." A woman from HR entered with a folder. "Sorry to interrupt. I need Evan for onboarding." Ryan nodded. "Of course." I turned to leave. "Evan." I looked back. His voice was quieter. "Don't tell anyone about the photograph." "Why?" "Because I don't know who else has seen it." That sentence followed me all the way downstairs. The rest of the day felt unreal. I tried to focus on my work, but every time I looked at my computer screen, I thought about Ryan. At lunch, one of my new coworkers, Daniel, sat across from me. "You met Mercer yet?" I hesitated. "Yeah." Daniel leaned closer. "What's your first impression?" "Complicated." He laughed. "That's what everyone says." "Why?" Daniel looked around before lowering his voice. "Ryan Mercer doesn't usually take jobs like this." "What do you mean?" "He had a pretty successful career in Boston. Then, suddenly, he left everything and came here." "Why?" "No idea." "Family? Maybe." I remembered Ryan's words from the airport. Sometimes mystery is easier than the truth. I couldn't stop thinking about them. That evening, I stayed late to finish a project. Most of the office had emptied. By 7, I was packing my laptop when I noticed light coming from Ryan's office. I considered leaving. Then I heard something crash. I ran toward the door. "Ryan." No answer. I opened it. He was standing near the window. A glass had fallen onto the floor. "Are you okay?" "Yes." "You sure?" He looked at me. For a second, he seemed almost embarrassed. "I'm fine." I stepped inside. "You don't look fine." He gave a faint smile. "You always do that." "Do what?" "Notice things." I didn't know how to respond. Then the lights went out. The entire floor went dark. I heard several people in the hallway react. Emergency lights flickered on a few seconds later. Ryan looked toward the window. "Power outage." I noticed. He smiled. It was the first normal smile I'd seen from him all day. We sat in the conference area near the emergency lights while building security worked on the problem. For once, there was no office pressure. No employees. No title between us. Just two people sitting in a dark room. Ryan loosened his tie. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone ambitious." "I am ambitious." "I know." He looked at me. "But you're also kind." I smiled. "Is that a compliment?" "Yes." "Then thank you." Silence settled between us. I finally asked the question I'd been holding all day. "Who is in the photograph?" Ryan's face changed. "You." "I know that." "Do you remember the event?" I looked at him. "No." Ryan nodded slowly. "I didn't think you would." "Why?" "Because you weren't looking at the camera." "What was I doing?" "You were helping someone." "Who?" He looked away. "My brother." That answer stopped me. "You have a brother?" "I had one." The words came quietly. I didn't ask what happened. Ryan continued anyway. He was 17. I was 22. Our family was going through a difficult time. He rubbed his hands together. One afternoon, he got separated from us at a community event. He was frightened. Then someone found him. I stared at Ryan. "Me?" Ryan nodded. "You stayed with him until our family found him." I searched my memory. "Nothing." "I don't remember." "I know." "Then why does it matter?" Ryan looked directly at me. "Because he remembered you." The lights suddenly came back on. The moment broke. Ryan stood. "We should go." I followed him toward the hallway. Before I left, he said something that made me stop. "You asked me why I came to Chicago." "Yes." "I came because of unfinished business." "With your family?" "Yes." He hesitated. "And maybe because I thought I could finally face something I ran away from." "What?" Ryan looked at me. "You." My heart began beating faster. "What does that mean?" But he walked away before answering. The next morning, I arrived at work to find an envelope on my desk. No name. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 3 words were written across it. "Ask Ryan why." Below that was a date. A date from years ago. The same date printed on the back of the photograph. I stared at it. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. "Ask him why he really came to Chicago." I looked through the glass wall toward Ryan's office. He was standing behind his desk, speaking on the phone. Then he looked up. Our eyes met. His expression changed immediately. He knew. Somehow, he knew I'd received the message. And for the first time since meeting him, Ryan looked genuinely afraid. I didn't walk into Ryan's office that morning. For the first time since we'd met, I decided not to chase an answer. I slipped the anonymous message into my pocket and went back to work. If Ryan wanted to tell me the truth, he could. But every hour that passed made the question harder to ignore. Why had he really come to Chicago? And why did someone else want me to ask? By lunchtime, I had convinced myself that the simplest explanation was probably the right one. Ryan had a complicated past. His family had been involved in something. I had accidentally been part of that story years ago. Maybe that was all. Then Daniel dropped a folder on my desk. Mercer wants these reviewed before 4. I opened it. It was a list of old company projects. One name caught my attention. Mercer Family Foundation, Chicago Community Initiative. The date was the same date written on the photograph. I stared at the page. Daniel noticed. "You okay?" "Yeah." I closed the folder. But I wasn't okay. I spent the next 2 hours doing my actual work while quietly putting pieces together. Ryan had joined the company only recently. His family foundation had been involved with several community programs in Chicago years ago. And the photograph came from one of those events. But something still didn't make sense. If Ryan had known me because of his brother, why had he acted like a stranger at the airport? Why leave the photograph in my bag? Why warn me not to trust the first thing I heard about him? And most importantly, why did he look afraid when I received that message? At 3:45, I finally went to his office. He looked up when I entered. "You found it." I closed the door. "The photograph? The message?" His answer made my stomach tighten. "You knew someone would contact me." Ryan stood. "I suspected." "Who?" "I don't know." "Then why did you look scared?" He was silent. I placed the paper on his desk. "Tell me everything." Ryan stared at the message for several seconds. Then he sat down. "I came to Chicago because of my brother." I waited. "My brother's name was Noah." His voice became quieter. "He was 17 when that photograph was taken. Our family was going through a difficult period. My father had just died, and my mother was trying to keep everything together." Ryan looked at the photograph. "Noah disappeared from the community event for almost an hour. You found him?" "You did." I swallowed. "I really don't remember." "I know." He smiled sadly. "That was the strange thing about you." "What?" "You helped him without expecting anything." Ryan explained that Noah had been overwhelmed and frightened. He had been sitting alone behind the building when I found him. I stayed beside him until his family arrived. I apparently gave him my jacket because he was cold. Then I left before anyone could properly thank me. "Noah talked about you for years," Ryan said. "What happened to him?" Ryan looked down. "He died 2 years ago." The room became very quiet.
I'm sorry.
Ryan nodded. "After he died, I found that photograph among his things." He turned it over. On the back, there was a faded handwritten note. "The guy who stayed." Ryan touched the words with his finger. "I wanted to find you." My heart tightened. "So you searched for me?" "For a while." "Then why didn't you contact me?" "Because I realized I didn't know what I wanted to say." He looked at me. "You were a stranger who had done something kind for my brother. I didn't want to turn that into something it wasn't." "Then what changed?" "You did." Couldn't look away. "When I saw you at the airport, I recognized you immediately." "Then why pretend you didn't?" "Because you were smiling." I frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" "You looked happy." Ryan took a breath. "And I realized I had no right to walk into your life carrying my family's grief." That was the first answer he'd given me that felt completely honest. "But you still put the photograph in my bag." "I wanted to know if you remembered." "And if I did?" "I don't know." "You should have asked me." "I was afraid." "Of what?" Ryan looked directly at me. "Of what I'd feel if you didn't." I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't the story I'd imagined. There was no secret plan.
No manipulation.
Just a man carrying grief he didn't know how to put down. But then I remembered the anonymous message. Who sent this? Ryan shook his head. I don't know. You're sure? Yes. Then why does someone want me to know about your past? Ryan stood and walked to the window. Because my family has enemies. I waited. My father made a lot of business decisions people didn't agree with. Some people lost money. Some relationships ended badly. Are you saying I'm in danger? No. He turned toward me. I'm saying someone wants you to think I am. That answer bothered me more. So someone is trying to break us apart before anything even happens? Ryan's expression softened. Us. I realized what I'd said. I looked away. Forget it. No. He took a step toward me. You said us. I felt my face warm. I don't know what this is. Neither do I. You're my boss. I know. You're keeping secrets. I know. And somehow I stopped. Ryan waited. Still what? I looked at him. Still want to know you. Something in his expression broke. Not dramatically. Just enough for me to see how much he'd been holding back. He stepped closer. Neither of us moved for several seconds. Then Ryan reached for my hand. He stopped before touching me. Tell me to stop. I didn't. His fingers gently touched mine. The moment was quiet. No dramatic music. No perfect words. Just the realization that somewhere between an airport gate and an office hallway, this man had become important to me. Then the office door opened. We immediately stepped apart. Daniel stood there. His eyes moved between us. Sorry. He left. I closed my eyes. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Ryan looked at me. Evan. No, I picked up the folder. People are already going to talk. They don't matter. They matter to my career. Ryan was silent. I continued. I don't want anyone thinking I got this position because of you. You didn't. I know that. But I can't work like this. I placed the folder on his desk. I want off this project. Ryan's face changed. Evan. It's not punishment. Then what is it? Protection. For who? For me. I turned toward the door. Ryan didn't stop me. That somehow hurt more than if he had. The next morning, the office felt different. Ryan was professional. Distant. Exactly what I'd asked for. He didn't look at me during meetings. He didn't send personal messages. He didn't ask if I had eaten. He didn't find excuses to walk past my desk. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt like something had gone missing. 3 days passed. Then, on Friday afternoon, an email arrived from HR. Ryan had formally removed himself from my reporting structure. My new supervisor would be someone else. At the bottom was a short note. Your career should never depend on your relationship with me. I read it twice. Then a third time. I went to Ryan's office. He was packing a box. What are you doing? Moving to another floor. Why? So you can have your career without me standing over it. You didn't have to leave. Yes, I did. He looked at me. I care about you too much to make you choose between your future and me. My throat tightened. You care about me? Ryan smiled sadly. More than I should. I stepped closer. But what if I don't want you to make that choice for me? He froze. What? I took a breath. I don't want this to be about Noah. I don't want it to be about the photograph. I don't want it to be about gratitude. Ryan looked at me carefully. Then what do you want? I didn't answer. Not yet. Because there was one question I needed answered first. If we'd never met at that airport, I swallowed. Would you still choose me? Ryan stared at me. For the first time, there was no mystery in his eyes. Only the truth. I think, he said quietly, I would have found another reason. I stood there, staring at Ryan. For once, he wasn't hiding behind a title, an office door, or a carefully chosen answer. He had given me the truth. And somehow, the truth was more frightening than the mystery. Because now I had a choice. I could walk away, or I could find out what might happen if I stayed. I looked at the box on his desk. You're really leaving this floor? Yes. So I can work without everyone thinking I'm getting special treatment. Yes. And you're okay with that? Ryan gave me a small smile.
No.
The honesty caught me off guard. But I'll do it anyway. Why? Because caring about someone means you don't make their life smaller just to keep them close. I looked down. Those words stayed with me. For the first time, I understood that Ryan wasn't trying to pull me into his world. He was trying to give me the freedom to choose whether I wanted to enter it. I left his office without saying anything else. That weekend, I tried to convince myself I had made the right decision. I went for walks through the city. I explored my new neighborhood. I called my family. I even went to the coffee shop I'd been meaning to try since moving to Chicago. But everywhere I went, something reminded me of Ryan. A man in a navy jacket. A familiar laugh. A song playing in a store. Even Gate 18 in my memory. I kept thinking about the first time we'd met. He had been a stranger. At least that's what I thought. But now I knew that moment had meant something different to him. Not because he had planned it. Because he had recognized someone who had once brought comfort to his little brother. And somewhere along the way, that old memory had become something new. Monday morning, I walked into the office with a decision. Ryan wasn't there. His office was empty. I found out he'd moved his workspace to another building owned by the company. I stood there longer than I meant to. Then I went to HR. I need to ask about something. The HR manager looked up. Sure. I want to stay on the project. She smiled. You can. Your new supervisor approved it. Good. I hesitated. And Ryan? He's no longer involved in your team. I nodded. That was his decision? Yes. I walked away feeling strangely relieved. Not because Ryan was gone. Because now, if I chose him, it wouldn't be because he was my boss. It would be because I wanted him. That evening, I found him outside the building. He was standing beside his car, holding a paper cup of coffee. He looked surprised when he saw me. Evan, we need to talk. His expression became serious. Okay. I stopped a few feet away. I stayed. Ryan nodded. I heard. But not because of the project. I know. And not because of Noah. His eyes softened. I know. I took a breath. I stayed because I don't want to leave. Ryan didn't speak. He simply looked at me. I was scared, I admitted. Not of you, of what this could become. That makes two of us. I thought maybe you only cared because of what happened years ago. I don't. I know that now. A small smile appeared on his face. How? Because you gave me the easiest way out. Ryan looked down at his coffee. I thought it was the right thing. It was. He looked back at me. But I hated it. I laughed softly. So did I. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then I asked the question that had been sitting inside me since the airport. If we'd never met at Gate 18, Ryan waited. Would you still have wanted to know me? He smiled. I think I already did. What does that mean? It means the first time I saw your face, I remembered the photograph. He stepped closer. But the first time I actually got to know you was when you helped me at the airport. I smiled. I only found your passport. You found more than that. I raised an eyebrow. That's dramatic. I've been told. We both laughed. Then the laughter faded. Ryan looked at me carefully. I need to tell you one more thing. What? I didn't put the photograph in your bag because I wanted to frighten you. I know. I put it there because I wanted to give you a choice. What choice? To remember me. I looked at him. And if I didn't? Then I would have accepted it. That was the moment I finally understood. Ryan hadn't been trying to rewrite my past. He had simply been hoping there might be a place for him in my future. I stepped closer. So what happens now? Ryan smiled. Now? Yeah. You tell me what you want. I looked at him. I want to know you. His smile disappeared. Not from sadness. From emotion. You're sure? Yes. Even after everything? Especially after everything. Ryan reached for my hand. This time I didn't hesitate. His fingers closed gently around mine. Warm. Steady. Real. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he leaned closer. He stopped just before our lips met. Still sure. I smiled. Stop asking. He laughed quietly. Then he kissed me. It was soft, brief, nothing dramatic. But somehow it felt bigger than everything that had happened before it. When we pulled apart, Ryan rested his forehead lightly against mine. I've wanted to do that since gate 18. I smiled. You were really bad at hiding it. So were you. Fair. We stood there for another moment. Then I noticed something in his hand. What is that? He looked down. The old photograph. You still have it? I thought you should keep it. He handed it to me. I looked at the younger version of myself standing beside Ryan's brother. For years I had forgotten that day completely. But now it felt like the beginning of something I had never known was waiting for me. You know what's strange? I said. What? I spent all this time thinking I was helping a stranger. Ryan smiled. And now I know I was helping someone who was going to change my life. His eyes softened. Maybe we both needed that. Months passed. Our relationship didn't become some perfect movie overnight. We took things slowly. We had awkward dinners, long conversations, arguments about stupid things, laughing in parking lots, coffee before work, and quiet evenings where neither of us needed to say anything. Most importantly, Ryan was no longer my boss. We had separate professional lives. There were no secrets between us. One evening, several months after that night at the airport, Ryan called me. Pack a small bag. Why? Trust me. That's exactly what you told me not to do. He laughed. Fair point. An hour later, I found him waiting outside the airport. Gate 18. I smiled when I saw him. You brought me back here? Yes. Why? Ryan looked toward the terminal. I wanted to see where it started. We walked inside. The airport was busy. People were rushing toward flights. Families were saying goodbye. Announcements echoed overhead. We reached the same gate where we'd first met. Ryan looked at me. You know, our first meeting was terrible. You lost your passport. You found it. You gave me a mysterious warning. You ignored it. You disappeared. You remembered me. I smiled. Barely. Ryan laughed. Then he reached for my hand. This time there was no fear. No misteri. No photograph hiding a secret. Just us. He looked at me. Would you help a stranger again? I squeezed his hand. Only if he promises not to disappear. Ryan smiled. I promise. We walked toward the departure gates together. Not as strangers. Not as boss and employee. Not as two people connected only by an old photograph. Just two men who had somehow found each other twice. And this time, neither of us walked away. If Ryan and Evan's story touched your heart, don't leave just yet. Red heart. Tell me in the comments. Do you believe some people are meant to find each other twice? If you enjoyed this slow burn gay romance, like the video, subscribe to Gay Romance World, and turn on notifications bell. And remember, sometimes the person we think is a stranger is actually the person our heart has been waiting for. Red heart. I'll see you in the next love story.